Hi guys, welcome to the Grow More channel. If you're joining us for the very first time, this is the channel where we talk everything personal development and we share with you ways and strategies that can help you win pretty much in every area of your life. If you had started joining us from the beginning of the year, you would have realized that we did a series called the Winning Strategy Series, and it was superb. We had amazing guests who came to talk to us about how you can win in different areas of your life with emotional intelligence, in your finance, in your business, and so on and so forth. But of course, we're not stopping our strategies and our winning strategies at that first series. We have decided to extend it, and we are starting a new series today called Across the Border, which means that you can succeed anywhere you find yourself, at home or abroad. And in light of that, we have an amazing guest joining us today. Her name is Ogenna Onwumere, popularly known as Niger Girl in Germany. So if you've been looking to travel out of the country, or you already have relocated out of the country, or you're thinking maybe sometimes in the future I would like to travel out of the country, then this series is for you. Please do not miss any episode of the series, because we're going to be sharing how you can win in different locations, especially outside of your home, the strategies that you can adopt, the things that you can do that would make you stand out even outside of your home. And like I said, today is the first episode, and we're going to be talking about how you can thrive in Europe, especially Germany. So, yes, we're talking about Europe, but our focus for today is going to be more on how you can thrive in Germany. And we have the best person to talk to us today about this topic, because not only is she passionate about helping people in Germany succeed, she has done a lot of things over time to put that passion out there and to help you. And today, I think it's a privilege to be having someone like that on our program who will be sharing with us without holding back nothing, I'm sure, without holding back anything with you to help you learn how you can thrive in Germany. So, guys, please let's make welcome our guest again now on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for having me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure having you despite your very busy schedule. We don't take it for granted. Thank you. Gracias. I would have said thank you in Germany, but I don't know how to say it. You guys, your language is, I don't even want to go there.
It's not for the
All right.
weak.
So I know it's not for the weak. I know. All right. So I want us to jump right into the questions. And as much as possible, if you're joining us, I want you to understand that we're going to be talking very practical. And at some point, she's also going to be sharing her own story of how she had succeeded in Germany and the things that she has done. And we do hope that in this session, you are able to gain one or two things that can help you. So let's get to the first question. We believe that what works for us here in Nigeria may not work for you over there in Germany. And sometimes what you believe in Nigeria may not be the reality when you eventually get to Germany. You know how you think, oh, once I get there, soft life, blah, 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 blah. And then boom, the reality hits you. So, can you share with us the biggest mindset shift that you had when you moved to Germany that helped you to succeed?
Um, well, first, it's true that it's a completely different space. It's a completely different environment, culture, and all of that. And for me, the biggest shift I had to have is first to remember and bear in mind that I'm an immigrant, I'm a foreigner, and as such,
Okay.
I need to, think about myself as that, such that when I'm making certain decisions for certain things, I'm not expecting that people are just going to, drop things on my feet. There are going to be a lot of pushback sometimes. There are going to be a lot of even personal. Sometimes you feel like, I'm not good enough. Maybe because you see some other person looking like, this person is a white person. Maybe that the person has more sense than I am, because it's not. It might seem, I don't know how to explain it now. It might not seem like a big deal when you're not in that space, but when you're in a space where, for example, you have more, um, when you're in a white-dominated space, there's a very high tendency to feel not enough.
Inferior.
sometimes inferior sometimes, So some of the shifts were to tell myself that I belong here, I deserve to be here. I know what I know. I'm not, what I know is good enough, and sometimes even better than what other people even know. Just because we might feel that we're not good enough, sometimes it make us not maximize that knowledge that we have, already. So bearing in mind that I'm a foreigner, there are certain things I don't attempt to go do. Like I always talk about how that if you're coming abroad, moving abroad, and you're trying, for example, to study, don't study courses like, say, let me use for example art appreciation. Not because that's not a good course, or not because people don't thrive in such courses, but because when you are in that space, especially as a foreigner, don't expect that you would do as well as someone who is an indigene here. The person already knows how the level works,
The
how
culture,
everywhere
yeah.
operates, and probably have much more network than you do. So the person might thrive easier, than you. So instead, I focus on things that I know would yield results as quickly as possible and as sustainably as possible, as opposed to just say, I feel like doing this thing. Cannot be feeling like, you have to be strategic. So
Mm,
strategy, I would say. So strategy, knowing that you're enough, knowing that you're good enough, making good enough plans, and I've said other things now. I forgot what I said, but yes, I think I've covered at least one or two or three other things. Yeah.
okay. All right. Thank you so much. Okay. Now you talked about strategy, and I want to believe that when you tell somebody strategy, the person needs to understand what kind of strategy you are expecting them to put in place to be better positioned, or what kind of strategy you expect them to put in place to not find themselves in situations that they really shouldn't find themselves. Could you share maybe one or two strategies that you think people um can go as a game plan when they're relocating to Germany?
So, for example, if you're relocating as a student, why I always use relocating as a student as a quick example is because I relocated as a student. So it's easier to point towards that direction. There's some other people who will relocate for work. It's a slightly different
Yeah.
thing because if you're relocating for work, you're already here in the job market. You're already
Yes.
working here. So the next thing is to put yourself out, make sure you're doing quality work, make sure you're visible, so that you can grow. But then I'm using the student perspective because that's almost like you're starting from scratch. So for a student, for example, once you come in, strategy would be that you're starting immediately to begin to look for work positions, professional work positions,
Positions.
yes, not just looking for jobs
Yeah.
for survival sake. Yes, it's important to make some money, for the interim to survive, and all of that. But a lot of us fall into the trap of, you start doing something like some menial jobs, and then you just keep doing it. Let's just be surviving. Let's just keep surviving, surviving, surviving. Before you know it, 5 years is gone, and you're still on survival mode. So the strategy would be that once you come in, you're focused much more on professional opportunities. So which means you're going out for networking events. You're applying for, if it's student jobs, part-time jobs, applying for internships. Things that are geared towards your professional growth. Things that that if you put them in your CV, they'll be relevant. You are looking at volunteering opportunities, and things like that. Some of these things are strategic engagements. You're not just going out because you want to go out. You're going out so you can meet people, so that you can network, so that you can, find these opportunities where they are, as opposed to just hoping that, okay, let's finish school, and then we'll do this, and then we'll do this. No, everything should be happening concurrently, at the same time.
Mm,
So by the time you are done with school, you then have a good enough experience,
experience.
yes, that you can bring forward, that makes it easier for employers to take you in. Then you can continue to grow from there. You can say, okay, my plan is, I want to work for this kind of companies, and you're applying to those kinds of companies, whether it looks like you're qualified for it or not. You're just doing it anyway. The idea is you're exposing yourself more and more and more to these opportunities, whether it is just to just interview with them, just to have an experience, a feel of how they do their
The
interview process.
interview.
That so exposure, of course, is very key. And then you tell yourself, okay, once I'm done with school, this is the next thing I want to do. I want to get a job. We trust God to get a job immediately. You know that, okay, next thing is within the next 6 7 months or whatever, I should be able to establish myself with this and this. So of course you're going for trainings, personal trainings, corporate trainings. It's not an easy path. So it's not something you're going to just sit down and expect things to come to you. You have to be proactive yourself. Go out.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you so much. So I'm going to draw from this last question and the answer you have given to talk about somebody who is coming using the student route, which is what you've talked mostly about. But for somebody who is not coming through the student route, how relevant is our local certifications, or let me use the word certificates, in a place like Germany? Or would you say, for somebody who is looking for a job, you are relocating, but you're not relocating because you got a job or because you're going as a student? I believe that there are other routes which at some point you will share with us. But somebody who is not coming in as any of those two, who gets there and is still looking to get into the job market, is our local certification relevant, or they have to start from the scratch?
It depends on what field you're in, you know. So different fields would demand or expect different things. For example, the IT field is a lot more global, is a lot more, international. What you know in Nigeria is applicable anywhere in the world. If you know
Everywhere
what you
else, yeah.
do, yes. If you know what you're doing, you know what you're doing. However, if you're in a field like, say, architecture, for example, my background is in architecture. So, if, for example, you're training, you're an architect in Nigeria, and then you relocate to Germany using, say, the opportunity card. So the opportunity card is something that allows you come to Germany for a year to look for a job. So if you come to Germany as an architect with the opportunity card, looking for an architectural position, it's a little bit limiting because architecture in Nigeria is not the same as architecture in Germany. We live in
Yeah.
completely different climates, so the training is different, everything is different. So it's going to be a lot more difficult for someone who studied architecture in Nigeria to just get a job directly in Germany as an architect. However, there are other things that you can do. So as an architect, probably you are very good with CAD drawings. You're good with models, with 3Ds, things like that. Probably you won't now be applying for jobs as an architect. You probably be applying for jobs as a visualizer, as a 3D visualizer, or as a CAD specialist, things like that. So our certificates are great. A lot of people say, oh, we don't learn a lot. It's a lie. That's not true. We have good quality education in Nigeria, to be fair. We have um, we have good quality people, good skills. We are very skilled people from
Yeah.
Nigeria. However, you need to be sure what how relevant your skill is, or how applicable rather your skill is. Like I've said, for architecture, you cannot just transfer. Somebody like someone who does medicine, for example, you don't when you come to Germany, you will not just use your certificate of medicine from Nigeria to start working in Germany immediately. You need to do some sort of some changes, some switches, you know, which will demand you to first you will need to do German. There are a lot of some sort of like certification. How do I explain it now? There are some things you need to do anyway. You're not just going to just transfer immediately, and that makes sense because it's a completely different space. The patients are not spoken to first of all in English. It's in German, and of course there are going to be some technical terms that you're expected to know, and they want to be sure that their own standard is as good as yours. Things like
Yeah.
that. It's in very rare cases that you see people just transfer from one place to another and just adapt. However, like I said, in fields like, let's say, IT, for example, it's easy to transfer. You can come here with your IT field, you can already start working. If you are maybe, say, in chemistry or things or stuff like that, whatever field you're in, you know the field that you're in, and you know how
Mm.
this knowledge is transferable. One of the most important things is that knowledge is never lost. What you know is not
Yeah.
useless. Whether you are changing, you are switching your certificates, whether you need to do some extra things to add to it, the knowledge you already have is never a waste. So it's already a
Mm.
very solid foundation for you to already start off with. The important thing is just to plan properly first before you start off. Get all the information you need to get, which means when you say I want to move to Germany on the opportunity card, for example, be sure that you have a lot. You've asked so many questions. This field I'm trying to look for a job in. What is it like? How what's the job market like for this kind of place? If you cannot be coming to looking for a job like, let's say, in fishery, what's the tendency that you're going to get a job in that kind of field? Do you understand? I like calling extreme cases so that you can really, really think about it in that extreme.
Sounds
Not
nice.
because fishery is not a good thing, but you need to know the market and know how what your chances are really to get those kind of positions.
All right, thank you so much. So, I want you at this point to talk a little bit about what the work system is like in Germany. So, you recall when I started the session, I made mention of the fact that a lot of people just have the desire to relocate and they don't have adequate information, and then they get there and are literally shocked by a lot of things they see and realize that they can't cope. I believe that when they have an understanding or maybe an idea of what they are getting into, it helps them to decide, should I even go in the first place? Or if I'm to go, these are the things I'm expecting to not be shocked by when I get there. So you've been in the job market for a while over there in Germany, and I wanted to share what the work culture is like in Germany compared to what it is here in Nigeria. At least you've tasted both sides. So,
Yeah, I would say that if you're no matter where you're coming from, if you're working in Germany, you're going to be happy, at least in terms of the work-life balance, because the
okay.
work-life balance for Germany is amazing. When I compare it to Nigeria, where I've worked previously, you can't compare. It's a lot better in my own opinion. First thing is um, most of the companies, as far as I know, the interaction is a lot more flat in terms of hierarchy. So it's not like you're coming to the office and every time you see your boss say good morning, sir, good morning, carry back, carry this one. They will say eye service. Let
Yeah,
them not say, they are not doing well. People are much more focused on your work than your notice meetings, than
yeah,
whether you are interacting. Of course, soft skills are important. They need to be able to know that you can interact well you can relate well with your colleagues, you're cool with it. But those all those gun body things is not necessarily what is going to put you,
what's
you
you
know.
up there?
Yeah, what to
Yeah,
put you out there. Your work needs to speak for itself. However, you need to also speak out for your work. Even though your work is speaking, you yourself need to talk. As
speaking.
opposed to
Yeah,
in Nigeria, when you are talking about your work, it feels like you are doing eye service. Here, if you don't talk about your work, you most likely not get what you deserve.
yeah.
So while you're working, you need to also speak about the work that you do. Another thing I found to be very cool, like I said previously, is the work-life balance. So once you are in the office, you are in the office. When you leave the office, you are outside of nobody's contacting you after work hours to say do something, something, something. That's very rare. In fact, I've never heard that happen with anyone. People are very, very, very clear on work life is work life. And once we leave work life, that's it. Some people hardly even make work friends. Like their work colleagues is work colleagues. They don't cross into their real life, to become friends and so on. Of course, that happens sometimes, but generally, people tend to separate this completely. You have good coverage. For example, labor laws here are very good. So people are not just fired just for random reasons. There have to be a good reason why you're being fired. If not, you can actually take the matter up to court and try to get some money or get some severance, depending on
Session.
how. Yes, depending on what happened. If the company is bankrupt, for example, you cannot force them to keep a staff. So there are always ways around this, and then there are like insurances to help you if need be that you need to take a company to court because they fired you unfairly or something. So labor laws are really good here, which means workers are protected. As long as you're doing your work well, you're delivering well, and the economy is favorable for your company, generally you should be fine. Your job should be should be safe. And what's the other thing? Holiday times. Very long
Mm.
holiday times. In Nigeria, I don't think I had more than 2 weeks of holidays. 2 weeks. That's if you go more than that 2 weeks, it's like you don't want this your job. It's like you don't like this work.
Yes.
You need to think about your life again. But here,
Mm.
most companies will give you between 28, 24 actually, between 24 to 30 days. But most companies give 28, 30 to 30 days of holidays. And this does not include sick leaves that you would have, which you're entitled to from the government, up to 6 weeks of sick leave. You have other maybe small benefits like holidays, of course. You're able to, really plan your life, even though you're working. You're not like Germans are not, they don't live to work, they work to live, you know. So for me, the work culture here is really, really, really great as long as you're able to, get into the right job. Because some people will complain about the kind of job that they have. So if you're working certain jobs that don't give you as much flexibility in terms of in terms of your work life balance, I don't know. It's
Mm.
not it's not a normal situation here, at least in
Mm.
Germany, as far as I know. It's not a
Yes.
it's not a regular thing. It's not normal. Most people who work, even people who even work like part time, let's say warehouse jobs, they still have lives. They're still able to um have some sort of stability, in their life. So in terms of work culture, I think that's what another thing I found very interesting. People don't go and be saying, sir, good, sir, this man. People call each other by their first name, which took me a
Yeah.
very long time to get used to. Calling my
Yeah.
boss by his name or something. It took me a while
Mm.
to get used to. But all in all, I'll say that when I compare the work life in Germany or the work culture in Germany as against the work culture in Nigeria, of course, I do prefer the work culture here in Germany.
Germany. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. I have about 2 to 3 more questions and then we'll wrap up the session.
Okay.
Hopefully, I keep it at maximum of 3 questions. So, one of the questions I want to ask is, what are the common mistakes that people make when they want to relocate? Just briefly share a few of them, and then how you think that they can mitigate such mistakes for those who are planning to relocate.
First mistake I would say personally is, like we said, not planning properly from the get go. You should already plan. This is what I want to do. Clear, because sometimes people write me emails or send me a message or DMs, and they say, "I want to move to Germany. How do I move to Germany?" It already tells me that you don't know what you want to do. So you need to be clear what exactly you want to do. Are you coming to Germany to study, to work, you need to be very, very clear on that. So not being clear on what it is they're coming to do here, a lot of times it limits the growth that you can have. Second thing is, when some people get here, is the kind of people that they first connect with. The people that you meet with first would impact greatly how you grow here in Germany. Because these people are going to advise you. They're going to tell you, oh, this is how it works here. Oh, do like this, or do like that. Oh no, black people don't used to get this kind of job. Or black people cannot do this kind of
Mm,
Nigerians, this is how we used to do. So
mm,
those the people that you meet are going to be very, very vital. So it's important that you are very careful with the people that you are first interacting with, at least once you arrive, so that you're able to start off quickly. That's why I always advise that when you come in, try and find professional organizations to connect yourself with. As a Nigerian, for example, you can find organizations like NICE, which is like the barest minimum that you can do. NICE is a is Nigerian Nigerians Nigerian scholars in Germany. I forgot
okay.
forgotten the full name, but it's
Okay.
called NICE. So no matter the city that you're in, if you search
Mm,
NICE that city, you would
mm,
find something there. You can reach out to these people. Largely, these are educated people. So most often than not, they have much more. They are much more progressive in the kind of
Yeah.
information that you're going to get. So if you meet people who came into the country through, let's say, illegal means, or maybe they came through the country by, say, they married somebody, this kind of thing, and then they came. So the way they see life here is completely different. The way they
Different.
interact is completely, yes. Not everyone has their own path, which is very okay. But that's why you need to be clear on your path, what you want to do, and how you intend to go. So once you arrive, you know the right people that you're supposed to be meeting. You can reach out to people on LinkedIn. You can see, okay, this person is in Germany. Okay, you can check out, okay, this person does this. Is okay, I can reach out to this person. I can talk to the person, and stuff like that. And we know that many people are always claiming to be super, super busy. They might not respond to you immediately, but reach out. You don't know. People can still, you might be lucky and meet. You can talk to people who are willing to, show you the ropes. Another mistakes. Sorry, another mistake. Another mistake is not hitting the ground running, especially with the language. I am one of those people.
I was
The
going to
mistake,
talk about the language. That was my next question. I'm glad we're talking about it.
the
Yeah.
mistake is haunting me. Because a lot of us, especially those of us who come here to study in English, we just, we are very laxical when it comes to the language. But
Yeah.
there are certain doors that will never open for you if you're not fluent in the language. If you're living in a country, should learn to communicate in their own language. I've been very fortunate to be able to so far work everywhere in English and not necessarily need the language so far, which is not a very irregular case for everyone. So I would say that once you arrive, even if you are studying in English, start learning the language immediately so that you can already begin to overcome certain obstacles. For example, if you're looking for a job, even if you're looking for a job in English, if you then have German as an addition, you're already giving yourself an edge when you compare yourself with other
Yes.
people who will be applying for the same job, even though it's an English speaking job, because you'll be working with people who are Germans, who are going to be preferring to talk to their colleagues in German, as much as possible. So that's another mistake that I think that if we could avoid that, that would be great. Then the most, I think another thing I always say is community. Most of us, we separate ourselves from everyone once we get here. We're like, I don't want to relate with Nigerian people. They used to do like this, or Ghanaian people. They used to do like that. When problem come, it's those people that nobody is hoping for problems. But when if
Yeah.
it does happen, those are the people that have because they have lived this process already. They've gone through it already. They understand. They know where the loopholes are. So why go through all that when you can already ask somebody in the community? When you can already get support from people in the community. So I always encourage people to connect with other people from
Country.
their country, because these
Yeah.
are the people that it's easy to connect with them. It's already very, very easy. Living abroad is difficult in terms of relating with new people, relating with
Yes.
other foreigners. You might be able to relate, yes, with all these people, but your own people, there's a different level of relation that's easier to do.
Yeah.
In a group of 100 people, maybe 98 are bad, but you will see two that is good.
That's
Find
a
those
good.
two people, connect with them, so that it makes your integration a lot more easy. And then certain obstacles that you have, you might not have to struggle with them because you have somebody who is um, guiding you per se. Another mistake, last and final mistake that I would say, there are plenty of mistakes, but this is, I would say, is probably the last one. It's not planning ahead. Sometimes we are just stuck with the current situation that we are in, and we're like, how are we getting out of this? It's easy to, get lost in whatever situation that you're in. But we need to be planning 2 or 3 steps ahead because, like I said, we need to remember first that we're foreigners. So something might be easier for the German guy or the German girl to get. It might not be as easy for you to get. So you need to know that you're going to be working twice as hard. And don't complain that you're working twice as hard. It's not their fault. It's their country. Don't You cannot
Yeah.
be angry with them.
Of
Yes.
course.
Because I meet some people that will say, we have now I work 200% more than my colleague. If you didn't want to do that, you could have stayed in your house, stayed in your country and worked there.
Mm.
So if I am also a German, I don't think I will not be happy that I'm struggling as much as a foreigner.
Yes,
Not because people should struggle, but tell yourself that this is not my father's land, so I
of
need to
course.
do much more than the other person. But of course, when you do this, you will get the results for doing it. Where it becomes bad is if you are doing this and then nobody is, maybe your efforts are being looked down on. Okay, that I would say is not fair. But once you're putting in the work, you will get the results. Sometimes you find out that because you are working twice as hard, you will get twice as much as even that person. You find you go to certain organizations, you still see people of color, excuse me, you still see people
Sorry.
of color leading teams, leading organizations. That's not because they were running the things that they were doing just like every other person. You have to put in extra work if you're going to get extra results. So not comparing yourself with locals is very important. Remember, you're a foreigner, behave like a foreigner and work hard.
Yeah.
Work hard like you're a foreigner. And you see because the truth is, I believe strongly that a lot of foreigners who do this tend to do so well and do even much more than the locals themselves. You see, they get more opportunities because they're out there putting in the 110%. If your plan is not to come and just be ordinary, then you need to do the work of being extraordinary. And
Yes.
of course, you get the benefits for that.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask you just one question again before we wrap up the session, and this is just for those who are looking to relocate, so that they know what different paths that they have to relocate. So, in because I really want to keep the session brief and at a particular time. So, if you could do this for us, maybe in like 2 3 minutes, so we can wrap up.
Mm.
Can you just share with us various pathways to moving to Germany?
Um, there are so many ways to move to Germany. Because I can remember about 10. Um, First, as a student, I'm very big with moving, relocating as a student. Probably because it's the path I took, or maybe because I don't know why I really like relocating as a student. But I always feel like if you're a young person and you still have age on your side, come and study. There are a lot of opportunities that are available for you as a student. You have more time, to as you're studying to get yourself settled in to understand the system as opposed to some other parts. Another part is moving as a worker, of course. So you're already skilled, you have experience, and you're sure that um, you can deliver on this on an international front. Why not apply for jobs already on different platforms? Indeed, LinkedIn, Monster.de. There's several sites that you can apply for jobs on. Follow up on them. Of course, the people with the highest chances are largely IT professionals. These are low hanging fruits already.
Yes.
So by all means, if you can do that, do that. That's another path. Another path is with house building. So house building means that it's in translation is a vocational training. So you come to Germany, you are trained for a particular skill. It could be anything really. House building is training for anything. It could be training to be a hairdresser, to be a painter, a barber, a mechanic, a nurse, an IT person. It doesn't matter. It's in so many fields. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's some courses, of course, there's some fields that you won't get in house building. You get maybe something nearby. Like for example, you can't be an architect with house building, but you can be a builder, you can be a construction something. So that's another path. With house building, of course you have to learn German. You have to have B2 German for you to be able to apply to that because the courses, everything is done in German. And you're going to be working while studying, so you're going to be paid as you study and stuff. A lot of people encourage house building, but personally, I'm not very big on house building because while it is great in the beginning, if you're doing house building, if you're studying, if you're doing a university program. In the beginning, the house building person is earning more money, because you're paid as you're learning. This university person does not earn any money and stuff. However, there gets to a point in your career where the person who went to university would be able to climb further, but the person who did house building cannot climb further with just the house building. They have to go back for further training, to augment what they have, things like that. So there are pros and cons to it, but the low hanging fruit is that with house building, you can quickly already start earning money. Another part is through the volunteer program. So there are lots of volunteer opportunities in Germany that you can, do. Usually these volunteer opportunities are like a year. So people come here for these opportunities, and then while they're volunteering, they can already begin to look for another job, or apply to school or hospital or whatever. Then you have the au pair program. The au pair program is more like a nanny. So you are coming to live with a family in Germany to help them with childcare. And then they pay you, they give you just very little stipend, sometimes no stipend at all, but um, the most important thing is that you're living with a family, they're taking care of your living expenses, feeding, and all those things. You can learn German. Alongside with that, while you're doing that, you can apply to work, you can apply for school, you can apply for hospital, you can do whatever. Usually it's about 1 year, depending on how that works. You also have what other pause? No, that I can remember. I can't remember any other one right now, but these are like the most the biggest ones. I usually don't talk about things like asylum and stuff like that because I have no idea. Yeah, because I have no idea how it works, so I don't mention it at all. Oh, you can also come with the language school. So if you want to study German as a language already, so you can come in some schools that within 6 months to 1 year, and you can already start to learn German. And after that, or while you're doing that, you can apply to other things. Then I talked
Okay.
about previously the opportunity card. That one allows you to come to Germany to study for this is study come to Germany for 1 year to look for work, and if you're not able to find work within that 1 year, you're able to extend the visa a little bit. While there are talks that you can extend up to 2 to 3 years, I usually don't say yes. You can extend up to 2 to 3 years because it depends on who you meet that day. You get to the foreigners office. Maybe the person you meet there is having a bad day. They give you a 3 months extension. So it's not by law that they must extend it by 1 year or 2 years or whatever. The person will judge based on your situation,
Yeah.
and all of that. So these are really like some of the ways that one can, relocate to Germany. Yes.
Amazing. This session has been really, 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 really enlightening and very educative. And I think at this point, I'm beginning to think, do I want to come to Germany? But you see that language thing is very scary for me because
Yeah.
in my head, I'm like,
Very.
look, there's enough problem in this life. I'm not to the problem that I have to be dealing with. But of course, if you can go through the hassle of language from what we've heard today, you can already tell that it is very, very worth it. It is very worth it. I'm going to be putting contact in the description of this video so that if you have any question, I mean any question that has to do with relocating to Germany, here's a consultant literally giving us consultation for free. So please make do with a contact, reach out to her, and I'm sure she will put you through in the right direction. Thank you so much, Ogenna, for giving us this opportunity to speak with you and for tapping
Yeah.
into your wealth of wisdom and knowledge. Thank you. We
Thank
don't
you.
take this for granted. And to everyone who had stayed with us on this edition, on this program up until now, please know I don't take you for granted. Thank you so much. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe to this channel. We have many more editions on this particular series coming up, and you don't want to miss it. In case you're wondering which country should I go, stay and watch all the editions. By the time we are done, you choose the right country to go to. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. And we do wish you an amazing, amazing week ahead. Do take care. Bye.
Bye.